The UK seems to be going all in on this weather manipulation plan, using 777s and other aircraft to darken the sun. Here's the Telegraph. Boeing 777s could cool the planet if you don't mind a little acid rain. Stratospheric aerosol injection technique could put brakes on global warming, study finds. But with damaging knock-on effects. Who cares about the knock-on effects? Cancer, inability to have babies, low testosterone, infertility. I mean, it sounds like the globalist's dream, right? Reduce the population, dim the planet, allow Bill Gates to live by himself in a seed repository somewhere. They say it's to combat global warming, but of course the real story is they've been doing it for decades. This isn't new. For crying out loud, look at Project Cirrus, 1947, as we covered last year on the show. A U.S. experiment along with the U.S. Navy, Army, and General Electric. They attempted to control hurricanes using cloud seeding. So there's a long history here of government weather manipulation. Joining us now to discuss weather manipulation is Austin Steinbart. He's a WikiLeaks researcher, founder of Quantum Party of America. He's deeply researched Operation Popeye, U.S. secret weather programs, and joins us now. Austin, I've been looking forward to having you on the show and talking about this for a while. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Clayton. Great to be here.
My pleasure. So when you hear the UK is planning this weather dimming, boondoggle in order to cool the planet, or I guess just cool their island, it's not going to affect anybody else. Your head must have exploded, because that for decades they've been doing this. They're just kind of pretending like that this is a new idea. I guess give me your high level take when you started hearing these stories over the past week and a half out of the UK.
Well, my gut reflex is it's hard to imagine why anyone would want the UK to be colder or darker. It seems like it's already cold and damp and dark enough as it is. So it seems like they're going to really struggle to grow crops, and they're going to sacrifice themselves on the altar of this fake climate change racket.
So take me back. You've done a lot of research on Operation Popeye and these other programs. For the uninitiated, for people that are watching right now, because when we've covered these stories over the years, people are like, this is a conspiracy. I can't, come on, you guys are. And now we know it's not. I mean, enough has come out about this that it's not. But for people that might be watching this for the first time that never really thought about chemtrails, cloud seeding, these government programs as real, walk us through the origins of this.
Well, as you mentioned, the first project was Project Cirrus in the late 40s, where they were experimenting with de-amplifying a hurricane, and they ended up just amplifying it. And they caused a lot of lawsuits and a lot of destruction. And so then they pretended like they weren't doing that. A little bit later, they experimented with a thing called Project Storm Fury. That was another attempt to manipulate the weather that went awry. And then in Vietnam War, there's this thing called Operation Popeye, where they were spraying chemicals in the sky, and they were trying to create these massive rainstorms in the jungle to flood the tunnels and to wash out roads, and to, essentially using it as a weapon of war. And that led to this thing. It was a unencumbered treaty that says that weather manipulation is no longer allowed to be used for military or for hostile purposes. So it's a very clever little distinguishment there. And it doesn't preclude them from using it, like in the UK, for things like climate change, or in the United States even, doing these weather experiments on the DL. And whenever things happen, whenever things go awry, they always act like, oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist, that there's no way that they can do that. But there's a long track record here of weather being manipulated for various purposes. In the 90s, there was a briefing on creating fog and creating rainstorms to give cover for special operations. So this has been a topic of interest for the military for a long time. And they continue in 2025 to try to gaslight us into thinking that it's not.
How are they? I mean, we know that these superpowers realize that, by controlling the weather, in the Cold War, the United States, the Soviet Union really ramped up their manipulation efforts. Because I think at the heart of it is if you can control the weather, it's more powerful than nuclear weapons. You can destabilize entire regions without firing a single bullet. You can cause widespread famine on a particular population, and it takes them totally off the battlefield in a way, right? I mean, and this is really what I think Operation Popeye was. But I think, would you say that this is more powerful than even sort of conventional weapons, being able to manipulate the weather in this way?
Absolutely. And it's definitely more sneaky because then they can say, oh, that wasn't us. That was an act of God there that did that. Uh, so in the United States, I think the United States is the only country where we still pretend like this is not a thing and that this is a conspiracy theory. But all around the world right now, they're experimenting with weather modification. In China, they've created thousands of acres of new forest. They're doing this in the Middle East. They're doing this in India. They're doing this in Israel. They're doing this all over the place. There's actually a lawsuit. I don't know if you have it on the screen there, but there was a car dealership, a Volkswagen dealership in North Mexico, and they had this, it was like a little funnel thing that could shoot stuff up into the sky, and it could disperse clouds, and it caused a big famine on all the farmers around that. And what's on the screen right now, that is a project in Southern California. So they announced in 2020, hey, we're going to do this study. We're going to spray this chemicals in the sky and we're going to make it rain. There's going to be all these benefits. And they even listed at the top there those dates that they were the specific dates that they were going to do it. And in January of 2024, they did one of these cloud seeding experiments, and they shot it southwest. It was coming out of Riverside. And they hadn't, I guess the government in San Diego hadn't cleared the storm drain. So it caused this massive flooding, displaced like 1,200 households there. And again, even though it's on their website there, even though, anyone can go look that up, they were talking about it openly. They just tried to gaslight everyone and pretend like it wasn't happening. So I was out there in 2024 covering some county board of supervisors meetings in San Diego. And normally it's kind of the more rambunctious activist crowd that is up there yelling at the board of supervisors. But at this particular meeting, this was a huge diversity of people of all shapes, sizes, colors, and backgrounds, all furious at the government for causing these artificial storms that had affected them so poorly and then not doing anything to help them afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask, do they have any recourse? I mean, are they able to say, here it is on your website. You told us you were going to do this. You did this. You destroyed my home. You destroyed my neighborhood. Can I sue you? Can you get me a new home, please, that you destroyed?
The people were trying to make that happen, and the government just kept gaslighting everyone and denying that was even the case at all, even though, like I said, it's clearly on their website. Anyone can go look it up. They'd have been talking about it for years. And on the exact date that is on one of the schedules there, that is when it happened.
I mean, you've done a lot of research on this. When you saw today that was happening in Europe, all of these blackouts across Portugal, Spain, parts of France, they're telling us it's atmospheric anomalies that caused this. We know from our reporting and our interviews here about weather manipulation, the HARP whistleblowers, those who worked at the South Pole Station, the massive weather manipulation tools at the South Pole Station in Antarctica. Do you buy their story? Do you buy their story? It's just an atmospheric anomaly just caused this widespread outage all across Europe?
Well, that seems like their blanket excuse lately. They like to just blame everything on the random climate, right? Oh, it's climate change. It's this abstract villain here. And then, like you mentioned earlier, then if they can't get away with that, then it's Russia. But I think all over the world, the people are realizing that this kind of stuff is happening, and they've had enough. They've had enough. I talked to some people. I have some friends in the Middle East, and there was a situation in, I believe it was Dubai, or it could have been Abu Dhabi. But anyways, they caused a big flood there and destroyed a bunch of people's property. But the government ended up quietly compensating those people and making up for the damage that they caused. So it would be great if in the West, our governments, if they would do an experiment, a secret project, and they cause a bunch of damage, it'd be great instead of gaslighting us if they could just admit it and try to make it right.
Well, we have a long history of experimenting on Americans and then not paying them back until maybe 60 years later, we finally acknowledge it in Congress, Tuskegee experiment or what happened at the Bikini Atoll. We just hear just a bunch of sailors go out and look at the sunrise. It's actually a nuclear bomb going off So we have a long history of that. I mean, I think as people are in the chat room are saying, we need to keep talking about this because we need to make it stop. Someone in the chat room now just said, all over Southern California, not a day goes by where I don't see just like hundreds of chemtrails in the sky. What are they doing? What are they doing to Southern California?
Well, part of the time they're causing droughts and part of the time they're causing floods, whatever is more convenient to their narrative. As you remember, under the Obama administration, there was years and years and years of droughts, and they really used that to play into their climate change narrative. And so now they are running out of water, and they're trying to make more snowpack in the mountains so that they can have more water running through that river. Instead of just using all the water and not flushing it out in the ocean for those little delta smeltfish, they're trying to just use this chemical-induced snow to fill up the reservoirs there. Also, it's not just in California. They're doing that in Arizona, too. There's a massive cloud seeding facility in Gilbert off of, I'm from Arizona. It's off of Higley and Elliott. And you can watch it. I used to have an office in a tall building. You can watch it. It won't be sunny, or it won't be cloudy at all. And this thing will turn on. It'll be blowing clouds into the sky. And then all of a sudden it'll be raining. And what's happening is that those chemicals are causing a lot of damage to the native saguaro population. So there's a lot of ranchers and farmers out in the outskirts of Phoenix that have been writing me, showing me pictures of this, of just these dilapidated saguaros. So it's causing a lot of environmental damage. And it was very interesting in the 2022 governor debate for the governor of Arizona. Karen Fann, who was one of it was the establishment candidate. One of the other candidates kind of like goaded her into talking about the cloud seeding thing and admitting that that was definitely happening. She used to be the head of the Salt River Authority. So the quasi-government entity that was actually running point on that. So this isn't just happening in California. This is happening all over the place. And I think everybody, with how much chronic illness there is, with how much air pollution there is, everybody should be up in arms about them spraying us with chemicals and then gaslighting us and acting like they're not doing it.
Right. 100%. And Everell Campbell in our chat room says, wow, Clayton, sometimes you look genuinely shocked at the info you're finding down the rabbit hole. I am, because what Austin just shared with me, I've of course known a lot about the weather manipulation. We've covered it here for years on the show. But what you just told me about the intentional narrative of causing a drought, I had never heard that before under the Obama administration. Cause a drought because it pushes your green narrative that we don't have enough water. It pushes our green our green agenda, and I think that's a part of the story that I've never heard before. So thank you for that. Philip, one of my producers here, Philip and I were talking after last week's show about all this weather stuff, and we talked for like 20 minutes after the show about why would they want to kill. Why would these globalists want to kill everyone off? Then you literally have a barren planet where you've destroyed the soil, you've destroyed the plants. How is Bill Gates going to live? Like, is he going to live in some underground bunker? Like, what's the motivation there, do you think, for this? When you hear about this globalist agenda for depopulation, we're going to poison the soil. It seems like, well, how do you come back from that? Once the aluminum in the soil has destroyed all the plants, like then you're screwed. You've screwed yourself unless you're going to Mars.
Well, I think that our banking system is about to collapse. There's a massive storm inbound, an artificial storm inbound that's been building up in the banking system. And I think they're realizing that we do not have, with the plan they want to do, they don't have the resources to cover the cost of this many people, especially when the dollar is no longer the reserve currency and they don't have the ability to print unlimited money. So this is a long-standing ideology here. It's very psychopathic ideology. And there's other mechanisms we can do to underwrite a new government. So they need to know we don't need to do that. But I wouldn't be opposed to sending Bill Gates and some of these other guys to go live in that seed repository anyways. Maybe we could just send them there ahead of time and just keep them down there. I think that would be a good place for it.
Yeah, his seed repository where he's got all sorts of resistant crop seeds there, or disease seeds there, right? Like it's like aluminum. There was the story came out a few weeks ago about all this. Maybe it was longer than that, right? But the types of seeds that he has there are all resistant to a lot of the chemicals they're currently spraying. How convenient is that?
It's almost like they know ahead of time, just like they did with COVID, just like they did with everything else.
Exactly. Call me cynical. That's my middle name. Austin, great to see you. I really appreciate your work. Where can people find more of your research?
Well, I am doing a thing called Quantum Party right now. That's the specific, if you're sick of all of this nonsense with our government, a lot of the legal loopholes, especially for the intelligence services that they use to dog us out, are on there. So we're starting a massive independent political movement here to get rid of those. And some of my other research, I have a whole site. It's called QIntel Pro. Right? Because the FBI's program to come after us is called COINTELPRO. So this is called QIntelPro. It's our site to expose them. But that is essentially like a curation of WikiLeaks. And there's probably 25 different subjects on there. Everything from wars to 9/11 to the COVID stuff to just the plain old Democrat corruption. We try to make it very easy, easily skimmable, written in kind of like 8th grade level language, where it's like claim evidence, claim evidence. So I cut those clips and have those beautifully curated on that site. So you can check that out if you're interested in the subject matter.
Austin from Austin, Texas. Great to have you on the show, Austin. We'll put that all up so people can go and check it out. Thank you so much for joining us. I'd love to have you back. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Clayton.